We can't catch a break nowhere. And then on top of everything I just said, one of the topics we talking about today is police brutality. And what just happened to Ronald Green, we just finding out 2 years later, it's been covered up. So how many more of these type of situations have been covered up and it's gonna keep coming up? So we're dealing with a lot of things.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Brother 360 Copper, as a black man, and I know this has happened to me. So it's one of the probing questions that I think every black man should look at another black man and ask him this question and find out what happened and how they dealt with it, so we can build a national response to being questioned by the police. Now, how many? I shouldn't say have you ever had. Let me say how many negative encounters have you had with the police that you can go back and remember?
I can remember. Well, first of all, I just keep it real. I was a juvenile delinquent.
Oh,
I
okay.
was on probation, as a juvenile. So since I was about like 12, 13, I've had negative interactions with the law enforcement. Um, I've had a gun pulled out on me when I was in high school. Me and my cousin. Um, when a white dude was the one who caused the whole situation, calling everybody niggas, and the police pulled the gun out and started harassing the black people, and we happened to have a gun pulled out on us in our car. Um, so yeah, I've had several, up until my adult years, several negative interactions with law enforcement. I've had a couple of good interactions with law enforcement as well, but more negative. Um, I don't agree with with what they do, but I live by this philosophy. And this is something that this is not my philosophy. This is something that Nick Fuller says to do, and I think this is probably one of the best things we can do. And I'm not saying that this is this is going to work, because if their objective is to kill us when we interact with them, that's probably what they are going to end up doing. If we let them, if we're in a position to where we may be able to defend ourselves, hey, you probably want to defend yourself. I'm just gonna say that. But Neely Fuller says these are three things you need to do. Three F's: don't fight, don't fuss, and don't flee. If you do those three things, just basically cooperate. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. Because all of this, man, I ain't do nothing. I didn't do nothing. All of that type of stuff. Man, am I under arrest, officer? Ask that question. If you get pulled over and they say, am I under arrest? And if they say you aren't under arrest, okay, just cooperate and do what they say do. But if they come with you on the rah-rah, you already know what's up. And a lot of times they come with the rah-rah. So just be prepared. But, that's something I even tell my children,
Yeah.
Brother Luigi. I tell my children, when your dad leaves this house, it's a good possibility I may not come back. And that's the reality.
That's the
And
reality.
we
Yeah.
just have to be real with that.
Right.
We just have to be real with that. There's too many instances and images and videos and body cam footage to back up what I'm saying.
Well, let me say that my experience with the police, with the police or the justice system began probably when I was 11 years old. Let me say that. And maybe between 11 and 14 years of age was my beginning experience with police in Rockford. And what I'm going to try to say is going to cover a lot, but out of that experience over the years, it created a mental illness within me of self hatred. And I began to notice that self hatred amongst other black men as well. Now, let me just give you a little background. I grew up in Fairgrounds Projects in Rockford, first of all. And I had a strange phenomenon that seemed to occur every Saturday morning for some reason. And I just thought I really thought it was my future. I thought this is where I was going to wind up at. And the feelings of hopelessness, the feelings of why I even care, begin to overwhelm me, because every Saturday morning I'd wake up, and when I walk outside my back door, I would literally see black men handcuffed to poles a half a block long with the police everywhere. And I saw all these black men handcuffed to these poles. And when I looked in their faces, the sheer, sadness that I saw, the agony, the frustration of hopelessness that I saw in these black men, I begin to feel that too as well. And so from the age of 11, now here's the interesting thing about me too. When I talk about the effects and the damage that it done to me, I was blessed with a brain, I guess you can say. I was always this inquisitive, smart little kid. I started studying my history when I was in the fourth grade, to be honest with you. That's how long I've been studying African black history, African American history, politics. As a matter of fact, I remember as a child reading books on Martin King and Malcolm X. So I had this keen sense of understanding and awareness of the world around me. But because of that trauma that I endured from seeing black men arrested, seeing police brutality, and the self-hatred that I began to develop, I hid that talent. I didn't want to be known as the intellectual. I didn't want to be known as a smart person, because in my society, you were an outcast. If you had any type of intelligence, they would use terms like you act like a pale boy, you talk like a pale boy. So I had to distance myself from who I really was in order to fit into this this deroginated, I should say, society, that was really in so many ways inimical to me, because it took away from me who I really was as a person. But growing up, I remember at the age of 15, I went to the store one night. I was pulled over by the police. I'm 15 years old. And some guys clear across town, nowhere near me, had broken into a warehouse. I didn't know anything about it. I'm clear across town, but the police stopped me because I was a young black person, took me across town to where the crime had happened, brought the other guy face to face with me, and asked that guy, is he your partner in crime? Was this the guy that helped you? And I'm standing there thinking to myself, I've never seen this man before in my life. But if he says that I'm the one, I could go to prison, or I can go to jail. So I developed the mentality. I just knew that I was going to one day go to prison. I knew that beyond a shadow of a doubt. And so what I did was I began to prepare myself. And I used to, I wanted to work out and build muscles and be strong and be tough. I wanted that no nonsense mentality that I'm a hustler and I'll hurt you, I'll kick your ass, I'll kill you if you get in my way, because my destiny says I'm going to prison one day. And when I get there, it's inevitable that I will get there. And when I do, I'm going to rule it. I'm going to be in charge of the penitentiary. How stupid that was, but I'm a kid though, because I don't give a damn where we go. We're never in charge. But the sheer mental illness and the impact of the police and the way they treated me. Then at the age of 18, I used to carry my briefcase to school. I've always been they used to call me the dresser because I always dressed nice and I always, wanted to look sophisticated. So I would carry, instead of a backpack, I would carry a briefcase. And I remember one day I'm on my way to school and the police pull me over. And they take my briefcase and The first question the guy asked was, "Are there any drugs in your briefcase?" Now, at that time, ignorance is bliss because I hadn't even thought about putting drugs in a briefcase. I didn't even deal with drugs at all. So I was sort of naive. And so when he said that, I was really confounded and confused. And the look I got was, "Don't lie." And then I'm up against the car, and he's going through my briefcase. There's nothing in there but school papers. But again, it reinforced that tragedy, that mental illness, that it doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. No one cares. So when I got into confrontation with other black people, that was my mentality: was I don't care. We use terms now as a result of the mental trauma inflicted upon us to denigrate one another. We don't even know it. We use the term black, for example, as a negative connotation. So we'll say black ass or that black ugly person. We always got to put the term black in front of it to denigrate the individual. And I grew up with that mentality. That was a result of this illegal justice system that I was made a victim of it. So then again, now I get stopped a few years later. My license was suspended, which I didn't know anything about, but I'm arrested and I'm taken down to the jail, I guess, whatever, you know. And when I get there, the guy tells me to go this way, and I'm looking at him like, "What? Which way to go?" And he says to me, "You know the routine." And I'm like, "Dude, I've never been down before in my life. I don't know the routine. What the hell are you talking about? You know the routine." He's like, "Go this way, go that way." And they finally got me in this little place. They processed and all that junk. And I went to this holding cell and bonded out. But the interaction that I had with the police that day stayed in my mind. I was angry. I was upset. And I swore that the next time the police pulled me over, I'm going to let them have it. I'm going to give them 2 for 1. I'm not going down easy. I know you're against me. I know you're not here to help me. That became my mentality. I wonder how many more of us have experienced or had experiences like that, maybe even perhaps worse. My cousin had a gun pulled to his head, pulled over. He was 18 years old. He was at the corner market store, and the police pulled up, and they had him against the car, and then the cop puts the gun against his head. I mean, can you imagine the trauma that was inflicted at that point? How many of us are going around today as black men believing, especially our youth, believing that prison is our destination? I mean, so
There's a lot who really, yeah, there's a lot who really, who really don't mind, who really don't mind that. And we got to start teaching our young men, it's because there's we have to think about the camaraderie element of jail. You're around a bunch of men when you're in prison, and even if you spend a long period of time in jail, you're around a bunch of other men who are in there maybe for things they didn't do or things that they did do. So, that's not a place, that's not a constructive or productive place to spend, your productive years. When you're a young man, that's not a place that you should really want to be. You're gonna be around a lot of other men, and you're gonna be told what to do. And that's one thing that also to me falls under the mental health aspect is you got these brothers, man, who want to demand all this respect, who don't, can't nobody tell me what to do. But when you put yourself in a situation, you're putting yourself in a greater situation where you're going to be told what to do constantly. I
yeah,
used to work at the mill there in Rockford, and I used to tell those boys all the time. I said, the more you guys continue, with your behavior, the more you're gonna have somebody in your life telling you what to do. Right now, whatever your situation is that got you here, learn from this situation. So when you have an opportunity to get out of this situation, You learn from it, go be productive, and you won't have nobody telling you what to do. Unless you get into a job situation, which most of us do. So you always really gonna have somebody telling you what to do in certain aspects. But when you have all control of your life, man, that's one of the worst things that somebody could go through, especially when you're in a confined situation around a lot of other men. Who want to be trapped up around a lot of other men all day, every day? I
Right.
don't. And
Yeah.
and when I used to talk to young men about this, I used to say that to them. Like, I ain't never been to jail, and just first of all, I'm claustrophobic. That's number one. I'm claustrophobic. That I can't be in no small space for no long period of time. I'll go crazy. But to be around a bunch of other men, you know,
I mean,
all
but
day, every day.
I mean, but that,
That's that like that's
but
you know.
but when we're in retrospect, though, this is the Naked Lunch Club. I'm Brother Nubia with Brother 360 Copper. We're discussing police brutality, qualified immunity, and the recent uh, emergence of the Ronald Green murder by the police. Brother Copper,
Oh
let me just
man,
say that being in the cahoos cow or in jail, to me is the least of the problem, because you're right. When we allow ourselves to get locked up, we do become controlled by other people. But when we look at the police foundation historically, that's what his purpose was to control black people. We can go all down through history and even look at the Second Amendment, and I'll break it down in detail. The right to bear arms, the right to have a coalition, those were put in place so that pale people could feel safe and be protected against the soon emerging black race of people who were freed from slavery. So at that time in this country, there was no threat from a foreign country. There was no threat from within other than the slaves had been freed. But now we got this huge amount of force that we've turned loose on us. We've got to find a way to control it. So they came up with militias. Now, the reason why they have militias is because their constitution told them that they can't have their own separate army. It must be a united army. But I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll let you have a militia within your state. And if you do your research, you'll see that two things happen out of the militias. One, the militias were the foundation and the backbone of today's police departments. And number two, the militias were men who were formerly known as slave catchers, who had a particular method of when they caught a so-called runaway individual. They were trained not to defuse the situation. They were trained not to communicate, but they were trained to escalate it. Boy, where are you out here? Boy, where are your papers at? So they begin to denigrate them automatically. And that's one of the things that I think triggers the
Well,
anger.
well, 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 well they use marshals. That was the law of the land as far as law enforcement was concerned, with the marshals, aka bounty hunters, and that's when they if they can come get you, man, and they could either bring you in alive, or they could kill you on the spot. Either way, they were going to get paid, and most
Yeah.
preferably
Well, that
they want to kill you.
that police force it evolved into states having marshals, sheriffs, the Texas Rangers, so on and so forth. But its nations came about out of the Militia Act and the Second Amendment that allowed states to build militias, and those militias became the background for the. And I'm going to share something with you. It's going to be very interesting. Those militias became the backdrop for your Texas Rangers, for your police departments, and those militias also became the backdrop for the Red Foxes, the Ku Klux Klan, and almost every other pale hate group, the White Knights or the Pale Knights. All of that emerged out of the clause where the states had a right to have a militia. See, we this is why I call this show
No,
the
yeah,
Naked Truth.
I agree.
Yeah, that's why I call it the Naked Truth, because we uncover it and tell it like it is. This country has had a need to control black people since we've been here. And they did it through the creation of militias who morphed into police forces. And the biggest threat to this country, and it shouldn't even be a threat, but it's the fact that the playing field will be leveled. Blacks will be able to achieve just as pale people can achieve the American dream. That's been the biggest threat to this country.
Let's keep it clear. We were here first. That's number one. We were here first. We were already, because we have to keep certain things in history in perspective. There's no way that it could have been as many black classifieds that were productive cities, towns, individuals who were as successful as they were right out of slavery.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
just unheard of.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
the whole purpose is with these militias is, man, to get us off of our land, to steal our land. That's what they've been doing. They don't like they don't like they never have liked to see us do what we can do here. They've never liked that. So those militias, I agree, were formed out of what you said they were formed, but the whole purpose of them was like you're saying, also to keep us subjugated to them, and also, man, they took our stuff from us, man. They took our stuff from us, and this whole police brutality, again, I agree, is based in what you're saying, and that's all based in fear mongering. They put a level of fear into us.
But the
Through
thing,
all of these things.
the thing that I want to keep saying is that out of the creation of the so-called militia, another thing that happened with that amendment was the militia was given the right to bear arms. You can't have a militia without arms. And let me tell you the difference between a militia and a mob. Now, what happened January 6th, that was a mob. That was not a militia. Mobs are unruly. Mobs are out of control. Some members in the mob may have a focus point, but other members don't. So they're not organized. A militia is well organized. It has a plan. It has an intent. And you cannot have militia unless the militia is armed. So when you read the Second Amendment that says the right to bear arms, I want you to understand it's not really telling you as an American citizen you can bear arms, but it's speaking directly to that militia, that created militia. Now that we put you together, we made you in a group, we're going to legalize you to carry guns. We're going to swear you in as deputies, as police officers, so you can carry guns. And what we want you to do with those guns is we want you to control the black population. So and I talked a little bit about the experiences I had, 11, seeing black men chained to poles, 15, being drugged across town to be to see if I was a part of a crime, which I wasn't. 18, stopped, questioned about drugs, arrested for a suspended license and the humiliation that I went through. So I talked a little bit about all that. But the other thing is that, when we look at the policing in this country, again, we have to understand that when it comes, and this is a direct impact on our mental health. And a lot of us don't even know this. We're not even aware of this. And I only know this because I was an insider at one time. But police are not trained to de-escalate anything. They're trained to escalate it until...
No, they're not. Yes, they are.
Until it's neutralized. That's their ideology. So what happens is this. I'm sorry. So what happens is...
No, I said, yep, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. So what happens when the police pull you over? They start off with driver's license, your name, registration, whatever That's a question. Now, this is why qualified immunity is so important, because you can be an innocent person. And if you say to them, why? They're not going to say, typically, because I think you're suspicious. They won't say that, but they'll say, I'm not going to ask you again. That's an escalation. Now, you say, well, I'm not giving you. Turn around or step out of the car. That's an escalation. You say, no, I'm not going to do that. Now it's a physical altercation. You pull your arm back. Now you're resisting. You get angry and look menacing. Now they're afraid. So it's escalating to the point, it's escalated to the point where they can kill you. And then with qualified immunity, come back and say, well, I feared for my life, or I thought, or I assumed. Black people, we got to learn what qualified immunity is and why we got to get rid of it. If we're going to put a dent in police brutality, we have got to confront qualified immunity across the nation. We cannot allow the police to harass us because of our skin color, and that's what it is. 99% of the time, you're stopped, I'm stopped, it's because of skin color. Not because of a crime. I was telling brother 360 Copper earlier that in my estimation, this is a little research I've done, at least 70 to 80% of black men and women killed by police are one, state police, two, during traffic stops. Three, the number two, the second cause is there was a call that there was a disturbance or you were in the store stealing. And out of those disturbances, 90% of the black people murdered by police were in a mental illness crisis. They should have been treated rather than executed. If they were on drugs, then you give them opportunity to get rehab, to get help, but you don't put your knee on their neck. You don't shoot them and say, I was afraid. So this rabbit hole goes very, very deep. Go ahead, brother Copper. I'm sorry. I talk too much, man.
And I've seen several videos. No problem. I've seen several videos. At least three. I'll just say at least three. So that's a few. I've seen at least three videos where officers put themselves in life-threatening situations when it's come to counterparts and other groups of people. There was just something recent that just happened back in February. I want to believe it was back in February in New Mexico. I don't know if you've seen the footage. Very disturbing footage where a New Mexico state trooper pulled a gentleman over. I don't even call him a gentleman. This dude was a straight thug, savage dude. Pulled him over. The guy had a rifle. He was in a pickup truck. He had the officer, I guess, because of the stretch of highway. It was actually on I-10, which goes through San Antonio, but he was in New Mexico. He pulled him over on the right-hand side, I guess, because the lane was too small for him to go to the right side of the truck. He went to the left side of the truck. The officer did, and he saw that the guy had a rifle in the passenger seat. This officer allowed this man to get out of his truck and give him his rifle. So this guy gets out of the truck with the rifle and comes around and kills this man on sight.
The cop.
From the officer, you see all of this from the cop's
body cam
camera from his vehicle, from the cop's vehicle. The guy, and you can tell, man, this dude was a killer, man, because he executed this man. He executed him, got back in his truck and drove away. Eventually, they ended up catching him and killing him because he got to a shootout with some more officers. But the point is, this officer allowed this man to get out of his truck with his rifle, and nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. So, as a black man, I'm looking at the circumstances. I'm looking at the situations in which many of us are killed. Miles Hall, the 23-year-old man who was gunned down by the police, suffered from a mental illness. He was shot in San Francisco. Then you have Stephen DeMarco Taylor, who suffered from a mental illness. And this is to name a few of these guys. A lot of them are being murdered by the police without giving, the benefit of the doubt. Like the state trooper that was killed by this other individual, this pale individual, whom he gave the benefit of the doubt, and it cost him his life. But when it comes to us, though, there's no benefits whatsoever. We've had our athletes killed. We've had our aspiring intellectuals killed. So it's not just the police killing quote unquote black thugs. They're killing good, innocent people as well. And I'm not saying black thugs need to be killed, because I would never preach that to anybody, because nobody deserves to be executed, especially at the hands of a pale racist cop, period. Nobody deserves it, not even another pale person.
Well, I don't know. And I can't tell you one instance of any of these young men or any of these men that were killed that were actual thugs that had long rap sheets of committing crimes. None of them that I've seen. None that I've seen. Like I say, they'll do as best a job as they can to try to paint, a negative image of these people. But there is no evidence to back up that these guys were even thugs. So it seems like the so-called thugs are getting away scot-free, because these seem to be just, like you said, some of these guys have mental health issues, substance abuse issues, but that doesn't make them thugs.
No, you're right. It does make them a thug, and you're right. I can't see any instances where these guys had super duper long rap sheets. The young man that was killed here by Kim Porter, the cop, who confused her taser with a handgun. Now, I don't know how in the world you can confuse a taser with a handgun. Maybe she should never had a handgun if she didn't know the difference. But you can't repeatedly shoot me screaming taser and I'm not being tased. That just to me is, but these are the circumstances surrounding the murder of these black men and these black women. So in the aftermath of it all, what we have to deal with now is the trauma that's left behind, the fear of what do I do? How to overcome it? How do I deal with the self-hatred that I've learned because I've been taught self-helplessness? I've been taught that I'm not worth anything. My life doesn't value. My life has no value. I'm sorry. And because of that, your life has no value either. You were telling me, Brother Copper, about a young man who came into the barber shop and it disturbed the whole establishment because he felt that he had been done wrong. Or go ahead and tell us that what happened with that situation.
Yeah, he actually was had some incident going on with one of the owner's barbers. And that's what I'm saying. We don't value each other's things. This is a black-owned establishment. This young man decides to come in there and disrupt and actually damage this man's property with no respect to this man's property. He's been allowed to come in there and get his haircut before. He had an issue with his barber, some issue they had that had nothing to do with a haircut. And he comes in there and disrupt this man's business. We don't value each other. We don't value each other's things. We value everyone else and everyone else's things but each other and our own things. Like I said before on the program, if we really want to show other groups how we can organize and work together, just go stop supporting them. Stop supporting them and start respecting and supporting each other. That's one of the easiest things we can start doing right now. That takes no money and hardly no effort. Stop going to these other people's establishments. We'll respect their establishments, because if we go in there trying to go in there on some rah-rah stuff, they're going to shut it down quick. And they're going to call the police, and we probably end up dead. That's what happens to us when we do those sort of things at their establishment.
Yeah.
Do you think the owner of this barbershop called the police? No, he did not. He sure did not. And I know that hurt his shop a little bit when that thing happened.
Well, yeah, when you go get your hair cut, you want to feel like you're safe. You don't want be caught in the middle of a hell of gun bullets getting your hair cut. You know, that's no reason to die. But I think
Yeah,
the mental trauma that we are enduring, that our kid, and I think we need to be aware of it as well as parents and as older adults that have young nephews and young nieces and young cousins, that we need to be aware to let them know how to identify some of the trauma that they are experiencing, some of the signs of it, especially when it comes down to the realm of self hatred. What are some of the symptoms that they may be displaying? Um, and one of the major symptoms of helplessness is a feeling of, thinking, what's the use? I mean, feeling like no matter whatever I do, things are only going to get worse for me. I'm black. There's three strikes against me. I'm poor. I'm a male, and I'm black, the color of my skin color, I guess. So those are feelings of hopelessness, whether you realize that or not. And I think a lot of our young people are going through those traumatic moments or emotions, and it's been normalized in our community to where we now feel that it's normal to feel this way. If you find, and I think a lack of interest in any activity for us, we that's one motivation is key to us having a happy and successful life. But a lot of us are so unmotivated to do anything with our lives. Why? Because of the feelings of hopelessness. We can't get a bank loan. We can't start a business. We can't find a job. We're not smart enough to succeed in school. That's a feeling of hopelessness. That takes away, that zaps your motivation. Dr. Joy DeGruy says it's not low self-esteem. She says it's no self-esteem. So either you have self-esteem or you don't. There's no high and there's no low. When it comes to a majority of our troubled teens, I'm talking about our troubled teens, there's this feeling of hopelessness. There's a feeling of it doesn't matter. And because of that, they're not motivated to change their situation. And then when they are motivated to change it, then they got to deal with the external conflicts of a policing agency or someone in their own neighborhood. Black on black violence is real. Are we the only people killing each other? No, we're not. But are we killing each other? Yes, we are. Are we doing it at maybe a higher rate than some other groups of people are? Maybe we are. But the point is that these are all red flags of.
I don't really think that. I don't really think that, and to me, that adds to the psychic trauma that we deal with is believing, like we talked about also before we started the program about how black men especially become the poster child for any negative statistic when it comes to the family structure. We don't take care of our kids. If we're not with the mothers, we don't pay child support. We have multiple, mothers, so on and so forth. We don't want to work. We want to live off of the mother who's on state assistance. All of these negative statistics. Now, you can go to the CDC probably right now and see that most of that is opposite. I remember a few years back when I was looking at these statistics, we were actually paying our child support more than any other father, taking care of our kids, more than any other father was doing. So, we get these negative images put out of us, and that also adds to the negative images of us because there's a lot of us, who have children, um, who aren't married to the mothers, man, who we still are part of their lives. And yes, the family structure is broken down, and that's a big problem for us. But there are still masculine, strong, black classified men who do the best that they can and do try to take care of their children. So we have to And a lot of them and us not looking for a pat on the back, not looking for a pat on the back, but just it's time for us to start, as black men, even though we are dealing with these mental health issues, it's time for us to start striking back and disproving that these statistics and showing that we're opposite of what y'all trying to say about us. We not all thugs, we not all killers. We are trying to do the best we can. We are, looking and working jobs. Trying to create jobs. Those sort of things. We still can do it. We still can do it. That's the point I just wanted to make about that.
Yeah, there's a book that was written back in, I believe, the 1980s. I want to say I can't give you the exact year, but it was written by a young lady by the name of, I believe, I want to say Chadea Fari or Farah, and the book was entitled "Don't Believe the Hype." And in the book, she looked at national numbers, statistical numbers, and she compared them to reality. And here's one, for example, she looked at the thing that this country promotes in negative media is that black men or black people drop out of school and don't graduate at a higher rate than other people do. What she actually found out through research is that actually the graduation rate for black people had increased over a period of time, and that the problem was the statistics only went by the high school graduations that occurred, didn't go by the GEDs that was achieved. It didn't look at those students who were in a cohort who dropped out of school and then went back maybe a year later and graduated a year behind their time, but yet they still graduated. So when they looked at those names, the schools, they automatically assume, well, he didn't graduate in 2020, so he didn't graduate. Well, he may graduate in 2021, or he may get a GED in 2020. And those facts were not recorded. So there's definitely truth to negative media that promotes stereotypes about black people. I was saying that,
Right. And let's be clear.
what I was saying was,
Oh, go
that,
ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just saying that, and my thing is that all of these issues that we're confronting, we need to begin to, and I think you said it also, fight back. There's a group out of Chicago called the Black Roots Alliance, and they're dedicated to promoting strong black healthy communities on a community level. They're on Facebook. Find them, like them, join them. There's so many. There's so many programs out there that will help you and guide your family. If you're looking for ways to strengthen your family from within, and listen, let me be clear, as brother 360 Copper has said a number of times, let's be clear. And Biden says the same thing, let's be clear. But let's be clear. I like that term, let's be clear. Whether you want to face it or admit it or not, racism exists in this country. Racism will impact you at one time or one point or another. You can be the perfect black person. You can love all the pale people you want to. And you most certainly will encounter racism in this country. Let's be clear on that. Racism is alive. Jim Crow is alive and well in the United States. Don't fool yourself into thinking that old man Crow is dead, because he's not. That racist maligning of this country is more fervent today than has been, I say, in the last 20 years. You look at the Republicans, and I don't call them Republicans, I call them re-racist. It's because of what they are. When you go around changing voter laws so that you can cheat and win an election, and you're following dumb ass Trump, and you're saying that Trump is our savior because Democrats are sleeping with children and drinking blood, but Republicans aren't, though? Come on, you got to stop and think. We're talking about old ass pale people. There's no telling what kind of debauchery they won't get involved. You look at the empires in past. Look at Rome. Western Rome fell because of moral degradation. Because they began to just do unimaginable things with animals, with each other. Murder became rampant. So don't tell me that one group of pale people in this country are doing something and the other group isn't. And you're gonna say Trump is my savior, the biggest rapist, the biggest liar to ever put on a pair of shoes? How in the hell is he gonna save it? He needs to be saved himself. How the hell is Trump gonna help anybody? So if you're subscribing to Trump, to Gates, to Green, you're a racist. I'll pull the cover off of you and I'll tell you to your face, you're a racist. If you voted for Donald Trump, you're a racist. And if you're black and voted for Donald Trump, you're ignorant. And I'll put this out. I dare any preacher, Christian, Muslim, Hebrew, historic, I don't care. I dare any one of you to come face to face with me in an open debate. I dare you. I put the police out there right now. And I will prove to you that you're living in a racist country. And that half of the shit that you've been taught to believe ain't even true. I dare you. I'll put that out there. See how many of you take me up on it. And I probably, from a few people, who will have something to say, but they're not going to debate me, though. I want to put the face out there. We'll debate anybody. Anybody that doesn't like what we're saying, prove it. Prove it. Look at Ronald Green. Look at George Floyd. Look at Casey Goodson, 23-year-old man in Ohio, going into his own house, shot in the back by the police. Don't tell me that's not because of racism. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, oh, it was an honest mistake. The first time, shame on you. Second time, shame on me. There's no mistake when it comes to what's happening to us as black people. So in order to build our community and to build our families, we need to begin to band together. We need to look for the programs that's out there. The mental health treatments. There's oh my God, I can't think of her name, but I did talk to her. I talked to her company. These are all Drum, where it's therapy for families, for black men, for black women. Brother 360 Copper, you have to agree with me that black men most definitely suffer from mental illnesses. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, we suffer. We definitely suffer from mental illness. Mental illness slash psychic trauma. Because we've been psychologically traumatized, which is mental health. We've been psychologically traumatized, just like I said, from birth, from being poked and prodded, to being indoctrinated and labeled in these schools. To dealing with the world, law enforcement, and just dealing with each other. So yeah, we definitely have some breakdown of the family structure. The breakdown of the family structure. The mother's holding it down for the family with absentee father. A young man at an early age, feeling that he has to take care of his mother. That's a lot of weight on a young man's shoulders. So what does a young man do a lot of times? Go out and do something that's going to get him, put his life in danger or get him in trouble. Or, some of us, do take the right path and, try to do something constructive to help the family out. But nevertheless, we have a lot of pressure put on us from a very young age. Images on television. Relationship wise, it's a lot of stuff that we're dealing with. So mental health, psychic trauma is definitely something that affects us on a daily basis.
Yeah, and we look at the common scenarios of struggling families, of being poor or being disadvantaged. We look at those are common scenarios. But what we don't see is the underlying narratives that, of that young black man who committed suicide because of the feelings of hopelessness, or because there may have been another mental illness that was undiagnosed and untreated. We miss the narrative of the emotional distress that the majority of black men, black women feel, I'm going to say more black men than black women because there's a different ball game between the two of them. We're treated differently by the pale people in this country. But my point is this, is that there is a narrative that we overlook. And that narrative is the fact that our rates of suicide are real. And it is increasing. And it's not being addressed. I think more people are becoming aware. I've seen a lot of podcasts. I've seen a lot of TED Talks, a lot of conferences on black mental health. But I've only seen a few that addresses it from our point of view. You know, one of the things that we got going on is, you know, I keep losing my train of thought because I'm getting so many messages here while I'm trying to talk. But, you know, there's just so much going on, you know, and here's one true fact. When it comes to our mental health, I'm going to tell you this, and I'll tell you why I said it. We cannot rely on pale people to address our mental health. And that's the problem. A lot of the black people that I see addressing mental health.
We can't rely on them for anything.
Right.
We gotta stop relying on them for anything.
For anything, you know. But the thing is, a lot of the black people I see that are addressing mental illnesses do so from a pale point of departure. And let me tell you why pale people are not equipped to effectively deal with our mental traumas, our mental illnesses. Because one, they have never been through what we've been through. Number two, they're not going through what we're going through. Number three, they've been desensitized to what we go through. So to them, it's a one-size-fits-all therapy. To us, it's not. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So they're woefully unqualified.
You left out the biggest one, and the biggest one, number four. Number four, they created the system that that actually put us in the condition that we're in. They created our issue. You know, they have created our issue.
Definitely.
All these things that we're saying, they have created.
Definitely.
And we can't, you know, and this is not playing the blame game, like you said.
Definitely.
You know, this is a systematic thing that has been laid down. That, you know, it's a fine-tuned machine, you know, that they've been using against us. And,
yeah.
And you know, so for them to want, which they always want, they gotta have their hands in everything that we do. They want to control how we deal with our mental health issues. They want to control that as well, and that is definitely something that we cannot allow. If we're going to deal with the whole aspect of mental health issues and psychic trauma, that's definitely something that they cannot be in control of, because they are the creator of the issue.
And they've been woefully desensitized towards our unique needs. You know, when you think about, for example, the so-called Jewish Holocaust, and I'm not going to get into a debate about it, but when you think about that, the survivors received all types of help and support when it was over with. You think about the hostages that were in Iran back in the 80s. They received at that time, you know, when they were finally brought back, you know. But when you look at slavery, when slavery ended, there was no support groups for us. There was no therapy for us. There was no reintegration programs for us back into society. The only time we got a reintegration program was when we went to prison and had a chance to think about what was happening to us. In order to stop that, we had to get reintegrated back into the melting pot. That's the only time we had some type of process. But as far as our mental health, the years of lynching, the years of being cheated out of our property, we haven't had any programs to heal from that. It's been overlooked. It's been pushed under the rug as if it never happened, and it did happen, and it's continued to happen. The police brutality. We don't have any support groups that I'm aware of for mass police brutality against black folks. There should be an agency that offers counseling to families. And it should be paid for by the United States government, but it should be controlled by black people. I'm just keeping it real with you. But the reason I said it should be paid by them because they're the ones who's causing all the damage in the first place. But if they can't pay for it, then we should pay for it ourselves. We need to have our own national trauma center set up across the country to deal with our young men, our young women, to stop the miseducation of the black child. We need to stop letting Hollywood tell us how we should dress, how we should think. Letting our girls walk around twerking. And then in all of these movies now, you'll find a black woman laying up under a pale person. And I'm not saying anything against that, but what I am saying is that it's too one-sided. If you're going to show black women sleeping with pale people, then you need to show pale women sleeping with black men in the media as well, because you're taking our kids and you're making them think that that's the way to go. So this is the reason why you see an increase in that type of relationship now, is because the media is telling us what we should do. They're getting rid of the black family slowly. We don't even know it. That's the purpose of it, is to destroy the black family. If you can, I'm sorry, go ahead, Brother Copper.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But I want to add on to that since you gave me the floor real quick. Not only tear down the family structure, but also, and this might offend some people when I say this, might offend some people in the LGBTQ community, but they're also trying to, degenderize our children. They're trying to degenderize. They're trying to either degenderize them, or they try to make them think it's okay to be another gender, and they're really going after our boys. They are really trying to demasculate our boys at an early age. They're going after our kids. And it's like, to me, real quick, and it's like, to me, it's like, that was the whole design from the beginning, because the real breakdown of the family structure really started in the late 60s, getting the man out of the home. So they've done a great job of a continual generational curse of having the black classified man out of the home. And now, more than ever, it just seems like they are really pressing our boys to demasculate them and to feminize them.
Yeah. Now, let me say this. Now, when it comes to that subject of homosexuality, I will say this. I don't judge people on sexual preference. That's not my thing. I do believe that some people, right?
I don't either.
Yeah, no, I don't either. But I believe some people may be born that way. I'm not them, so I can't speak it, but they say they are. But I do know this, though, on what Brother 360 Copper was speaking on, the deterioration and destruction of the black family. I do know that in the 1970s, this United States government put together a plan where they basically prophesied that in 20 or 30 years, they'll have our boys thinking that they're girls. They have our girls thinking that they're boys. Now, when you begin to offer food and plans to destroy an entire race of people, then there's a problem with it right then and there. Now I have a problem with homosexuality. Now I have a problem with the cause of it. And Brother 360 Copper is absolutely right. It is deteriorating our families. We need to get a hold on it. We need to find out what's going on in that area. So maybe in the months to come, we'll do a show on homosexuality.
Can I clear up something that I said?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I clear up something I said? Because I wanna make sure it don't sound like an attack. And what I mean by that, let me add some stuff to what I'm saying as far as demasculating our young men as far as the images that they're putting out to our young men. Like you said, even with the food, I've heard certain things as far as the food and the hormones with the food, but mainly the images and the things that our kids are exposed to and what's made to be okay at an early age. Sex should not be something on a 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 8-year-old. Uh, when you get into your pubic teenage years, those are things you start thinking about because that's just a natural change in your body. But when you are in your adolescent year, that's not something that should be you know um, produce the kids the way that they're doing it today. I don't agree with that, and
And
it just seems like our kids are the ones who are being targeted the most, and and unfortunately they have Negroes out here pushing this